Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here. I'm playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and in this video I'm going to show you how to complete all 10 of the Sphinx Riddles. Doing so will get you an achievement or trophy, a ton of amazing items, as well as a bunch of XP. You can also start this process pretty much as early as you desire, although later steps get a little bit more tricky if you're underleveled. First things first, we're going to want to get to the checkpoint rest town. The absolute easiest way to do this is to start in Vernworth and then go to the ox cart station located near the west side called the West Vernworth Ox Cart Station. Here you'll need to talk to the attendant or call the ox cart and then wait for it. Pay them to board, get on the back, sit and doze off, and eventually when you wake up you should arrive in checkpoint rest town. There is a chance that the ox cart gets attacked as you are riding it. You may need to fend off a couple of enemies, and once you arrive here it might be a good idea to go to the inn and rest so that you have a new save. Now from here you want to exit checkpoint rest town towards the north. I'll show you exactly where that is on a map. And as you're following the main road, you will want to split off to the left-hand side as it opens up through these huge rocks. There may be a bunch of enemies here, but you can pretty much ignore them. If you're super underleveled, like under level 5, you may really struggle, but it's a pretty easy area. And then as you work your way down, watch out for the rocks that may fall behind you, and you'll notice that you'll come to a campsite. You probably won't need it, but in case you do, feel free to set up camp and regain some health. You'll also find a golden Trove Beetle here, which I would highly recommend you pick up. But you don't want to use it. Instead, you actually want to save it for later for something specific. I ended up making camp just so I could make it daytime for the purposes of the game clip, but if you continue past the camp, you'll end up into a open area called the Ancient Battleground where an ogre and a dragon are fighting. But we're going to ignore them and we're going to go up the left-hand side on the edge of the cliff. I'm going to obviously make this clip a little bit faster as it can take several minutes to get to the Sphinx the first time. Once you do get here, go into the building on the left-hand side, stick along the left-hand side to get up onto the ladder, and then once you get to the top of the ladder, head to the east, and then what you can do is just jump over one of these kind of castle walls, looking a little bit in front of you, and as you jump over, look down and to the left, and you'll find a hole in the ground where you can descend via another ladder. Once you do come down here, there is a door that links you back to where you came from. You might want to open that door as it is a one-way only door, but otherwise you want to just run through this little catacomb area. You can fight the skeletons or not, up to you, but you'll come to another circular staircase that leads up another ladder. And once you get to the top, head a little bit to the east again, and then take a left-hand turn and up the stairs. Here you'll find a sleeping ogre, and it's your decision as to what you do here. I decided to attack it because I felt like I was able to beat it, which I easily did at level 14 or 15. And they are guarding a chest as well, which is pretty useful. But just to the left of this ogre, there is a ladder that you want to climb, and that should get you further towards the Sphinx. At the top of the ladder, face towards the north, and then here you'll be able to find a cave entrance, and as soon as you enter, you'll see the name of this cave, which is the World's End Cavern. This is a very straightforward cavern, so I'm going to basically fast forward the clip to the end of the cavern and then just show you what it looks like on the map. So if we open up the map, we entered from the bottom left. We took a couple of turns. There are a couple of areas you can kind of venture off into, but generally speaking, it's very straightforward. And then as you exit the World's End Cavern for the first time, you'll come towards these sleeping ogres, or these kind of golems rather, in the ancient ruins. Just pass by them and ignore them, and that'll take you to the shrine corridor. Walk through the shrine corridor and you'll get to the mountain shrine. Congratulations, you've made it to the Sphinx. All you need to do at this point is head all the way up the stairs and then go and talk to the Sphinx to start solving some of the riddles. Now, don't worry, there will be a way to fast travel here later on, so you don't have to worry about having to run back and forth every single time you want to come and talk to her. But as soon as you do talk to her, she'll let you know that basically she's going to be giving you riddles, and if you solve them, she's going to reward you. So head up to her, interact with her, and let's start with the first riddle.
Designed to baffle and confuse. I fear we pawns can be of little aid here, Master.
Your resolve is commend the fool beholds a sage.
You can decide to solve these riddles in whatever order you like, but I'll do them in the order that they appear. The first one we can do is the Riddle of Eyes, and this one is very straightforward. Just run down the steps that you used to get to the Sphinx, take a right-hand turn to go through this door, and you'll see that there's basically a giant cave of a ton of enemies and different things in front of you. But what we need to do is actually ignore all that, because what we're looking for is the most valuable thing in this cave, which is right at the entrance door. Just go up the rocks to the right-hand side to end up above the entrance, open the chest to find the sealing phial. This is the most valuable item in that entire area. Now you can go back to the Sphinx. Feel free to call your pawns with you so they don't get attacked. And at this point, you can talk to the Sphinx about the Riddle of Eyes and then deliver and turn in the sealing phial. Once you deliver the phial, there will be some dialogue as well as a bit of a moment of tension as she decides whether or not you brought the right item, but of course you did, and thus you completed the Riddle of Eyes, opening the first of 5 chests in this area. Once you do this, feel free to go and grab your rewards. The reward for the Riddle of Eyes is a pretty useful Wakestone. The second riddle in her options is the Riddle of Madness, another very easy one. She asks you to bring her something that is beloved to you. At this point, what you can do is turn around, and your pawns should be lined up. Bring a pawn to her and place it on the pedestal, and here present that pawn to her. From what I've tested, you can give her any pawn, and as long as you agree that that is your beloved pawn, she will accept it, and you will complete the Riddle of Madness. At this point in the game, I only had 2 pawns. The first one was my main one, and then this was the one I had hired that I brought with me that I'm presenting to her. Their name is Killian, and as I presented them to her, answered correctly, it will open up the second chest. The reward for the Riddle of Madness is an extremely useful Portcrystal, which is an item that you can place pretty much anywhere in the world that you can use a Ferrystone to teleport to in the future. And what we're going to do is we're going to place this Portcrystal at the mountain shrine. This will allow us to fast travel here in the future without having to worry about running through all of those caves and cliffs again. And don't worry, the placement of this Portcrystal isn't permanent. You can always pick it up and bring it with you later. Again, you don't have to do these riddles in order, so feel free to accept all of them and do them out of order. Just watch forward in the video to know which one's easiest for you to complete. But the next one in order is the Riddle of Wisdom, where she asks you to bring her a parent. And for this, what we need to do is we need to go to a Rift Stone. There are plenty in the world, and you can interact with one. I'll show you where the 2 closest ones are to the Sphinx themselves. You can backtrack to where you were coming down the hill where the rocks were rolling behind you. And if you use the small little bridge that you have to jump across, you can get up this little path on the left to find a Riftstone. But you can also find one along the main path just north of the checkpoint rest town. But once you visit either of them, it doesn't matter which one, interact with one of these Riftstones, and then make a list of all of the available pawns in the Riftstone, and you're looking for one specifically named Sphinx Parent. There may be one named Sphinx Mother and Sphinx Father. Ignore those. Once you find the Sphinx Parent, you can interact with the list and add a marker to this pawn, and then you can back up, go to the Rift, and find the pawn that now has a check mark next to them. And at this point, you'll need to hire them into your crew. You may need to dismiss someone you already have here, and you may need to use a sizable amount of Rift credits to hire them. I was lucky enough that they cost me 0. Luckily, when you do complete this riddle, you do get a bunch of Rift credits back, so the investment should be given back to you if you do have to give a bunch of them. But you do have to bring the Sphinx parent back to the Sphinx. You can do that just by running back to them and have them follow you there, or you can use a Ferrystone to teleport to your Portcrystal. Either way, once you are back at the Sphinx, locate the Sphinx parent companion pawn, bring them up onto your arms and put them on the pedestal, present them to the Sphinx, and answer the riddle in order to submit this parent and clear the Riddle of Wisdom. There was already a little bit of a spoiler as to what the reward was when I was explaining how this works, but inside of the third chest, you'll find 1,200 Rift credits that you can now use to hire better and better pawns in the future. The next riddle is the Riddle of Conviction. She mentions feeling lighter on your feet while carrying more, and you need to deliver an item to her that fits this description, and that item is the golden Trove beetle. I did show you where to find one near the campsite on the way to the Sphinx, but these are beetles that you can find somewhat commonly located on trees, so you might need to go to a forest or find one and then come back here eventually, but you want to deliver her a golden beetle. As this is a very useful item, you may be tempted to basically use it every time you get one. You have to deliver it to solve the riddle, but the reward is that you get it back. The next riddle is the Riddle of Rumination, and this is going to be everyone's least favorite. They mention that the heart is fond of the first place you found a Seeker's token, and this is going to be very personal to your own playthrough. You have to go back to the original place that you found your first Seeker's token. Seeker's tokens are basically these small collectibles that you'll find in random places, and don't worry, I'm going to help you a little bit here. Here is a map of all of the Seeker tokens in the first area of the game, so it's very likely you stumbled upon one of these. There's also a Seeker's token inside of the World's End Cavern on the way to the Sphinx. But wherever it is that you picked up your first Seeker's token, you might need to find a guide to kind of backtrack your steps. You have to return to this area now that you have this quest, and it will be replaced with a Finder's token. And you have to bring this Finder's token back to the Sphinx. I'm going to use a Ferrystone to fast travel back there to save a bunch of time. Once here, I'm going to talk to the Sphinx about the Riddle of Rumination. Here, I am able to deliver the Finder's token to solve the riddle, opening the fifth and final chest of the first area. Once you do that, feel free to go and open that chest, but you may also notice that once all 5 are opened up, the Sphinx will fly away, and the 6th riddle is to find the Sphinx in their next location. So we're going to do that pretty soon here. Before leaving, make sure you open up that 5th chest, which will give you 3 Ferrystones. Very useful for the next set of Sphinx riddles. And don't forget that before you leave, you want to take your Portcrystal. You'll have to basically run back all the way to Checkpoint Rest Town, and this Portcrystal isn't very useful anymore. We're actually going to want to place it at the next Sphinx location to save ourselves a couple hours. Now, the 6th riddle is the Riddle of Reunion, which is for finding the Sphinx in her second location, which you can find at the Frontier Shrine. What you want to do is you want to start from Checkpoint Rest Town, go into the river that runs near the north of the town, and then head west underneath the bridge. As you head west, this river will eventually end in a cave. At the end of that cave, climb up the rocks on the right-hand side to remain on the main path. You will probably stumble upon a lot of different enemies here, which you can mostly run past, making sure to get your pawns to come with you so you don't have to revive them. Eventually, there will be a split path on your left-hand side, revealed by smashing a rock. And at the end of that path, you can find the Frontier Shrine, solving the Riddle of Reunion. Now, because you solved this, it should open one of the chests in the back row, the one on the far left. One of the better rewards is this one, and it is 100,000 gold. A decent chunk of change to get some decent upgrades. Now this is really important to know. The next riddle you get is going to come in a random order. Everyone will do the same riddles, just not necessarily in the same order. Now for me specifically, the next riddle was the Riddle of Contest. Again, yours may be something different. You may need to skip ahead in the video and then come back once you line up. But for me, the next riddle was the Riddle of Contest, where you are equipped with the Ring of Derision and then given an enemy which seems unbeatable because you basically do no damage to them. What you have to do is you have to do some sort of attack that knocks them down. For me, it's the Shield Pummel. And once they're knocked down, you can pick them up and then toss them off of the edge of the cliff in order to defeat them and solve the Riddle of Contest. This should automatically open up a chest for you. You can then open that chest to get the Ring of Ambition, and you want to make sure you take off the ring that was automatically equipped during that fight, or you're going to have a pretty bad time in the rest of the game. Now the next riddle I'm going to show you is the Riddle of Recollection. You may or may not get this riddle. It is randomized in terms of the order. For the Riddle of Recollection, you need to tell the Sphinx how many riddles you've already solved. An important thing to know is that in the first area, we solved 5 riddles, and then you can just see how many chests you've opened in the second area. So I have 3 chests opened in the second area, plus the 5 in the first area. 5 plus 3 is 8. And what you need to do is you need to basically take these little rock statues. There are a total of 10 of them, and you need to throw them to basically land somewhere in front of the Sphinx. You don't need to be very specific as to where they land, but you need to make sure that the amount you throw in that area is exactly the amount of riddles that you have solved. So I've solved 8 riddles at this point in the game, and I'm going to put 8 of these statues in front of her. At that point, I can go up to the pedestal, talk to her, answer the question, lock it in, and if done correctly, solve the Riddle of Recollection. This riddle opens up a chest in the back with an extremely important item known as the Unmaking Arrow. I highly recommend that you save this for later on in the video. This arrow basically allows you to kill any enemy in a single hit, and we're going to use it later on in this quest line to make things basically a lot easier or even possible at all. The next riddle, which again can show up in a random order, for me is the Riddle of Differentiation, where you're told that you need to bring a very specific person to the Sphinx, and they're going to show you what they look like. Now this looks similar to a person named Dante, who is in Checkpoint Rest Town, but the actual person we're after is named Virgil. Before you set off to complete the Riddle of Differentiation, make sure that you set a Portcrystal at the foot of the Frontier Shrine. That way, we can teleport this person back to the Sphinx without having to run all the way back through an impossibly hard area. Now, Virgil, the specific person we are after, is located on the south side of the border from Checkpoint Rest Town, and there will be a large gate there, and you can open the gate by progressing through the story, or if you are in a rush to complete this, you can go all the way around. Starting from the Frontier Shrine, you can go counterclockwise down this path towards the waterfall, where you'll have to jump across the water, and then there will be a campsite you might need because there are some pretty aggressive enemies here. You can then follow a path to the main path and then head north to end up at the south side of Checkpoint Rest Town. Again, you can also do this the quote-unquote easier way, which is just by completing the story to open the gate naturally. You will come here. But once you are in this town, you can go walk around and look for Virgil. Before you lock it in and know exactly who you're looking for, you may want to talk to them just to verify that their name is indeed Virgil. And once you do, you can pick them up, you can use a Ferrystone, and you can use that Ferrystone to teleport back to the Frontier Shrine. Luckily for you, anything you're holding or anyone you're holding while you use a Ferrystone does get teleported with you. So bring Virgil towards the shrine, put him on the path, and he will automatically walk towards the Sphinx. You can then interact with the Sphinx to solve the Riddle of Differentiation. The reward for this riddle is the Whimsical Daydream, and this is a weapon that I believe is for the Trickster class. Last but not least is the Riddle of Futility, which I wouldn't recommend tackling until you're level 25 at the bare minimum, or else you'll just be really frustrated. It's possible at a lower level, but you won't have fun. The goal here is to reunite this very fragile vase with its owner, who is across the map in a very dangerous town. Instead of bringing this vase to them, which is basically impossible, we're going to bring them to the vase. To do this, you'll need to go to the town of Bok-Batal. You'll get there through natural story progression, or if you want to sprint there from the Frontier Shrine, you can follow the path as follows. You'll need to navigate down the waterfall, follow the main path, mostly trying to skip the enemies until you end up here. There's a lot of pretty powerful enemies along the way, so if you're a very low level, you'll probably get frustrated and just try again later. Now, once you are actually in Bok-Batal, there's one important thing you want to do, and that is change your vocation to the Archer. You need to equip a bow, as we will be using the Unmaking Arrow very shortly. Don't worry, you'll automatically be given the equipment for the Archer build if this is your first time switching to the class. You can also then rest at an inn to basically create a save point. Then from there, you can go north in Bok-Batal, down this path, and you'll notice some stairs on your left-hand side. These lead to the Mural Byway. From here, if you climb to the top, you may notice a person standing here. Their name will be Moritz. If it's your first time here, you'll automatically start a conversation with them. And we need to take this person to their vase, which is next to the Sphinx. Now, you can do this by basically just picking them up, going outside of the building, using a Ferrystone to fast travel to the Frontier Shrine, and then deliver this person to the vase. If you drop them off nearby, all of the dialogue with Moritz will automatically happen, letting you know that basically you have completed your quest. And at this point, you should go up and talk to the Sphinx to complete the Riddle of Futility. Now, as you complete this riddle, you will unlock the final little chest, but there's still the big chest left to grab, and you may unlock the full marks achievement/trophy. Now is the time for the Sphinx boss fight. To start the actual boss fight, you'll need to attack the Sphinx before they leave, or else they leave peacefully. And you'll want to do this pretty much as soon as you're able to control your character. Now, you're free to try this boss fight the natural way, but I'm fairly certain it typically ends with them just running away and you never defeating them. The proper way to defeat them is to use that Archer build I mentioned earlier, equip your Unmaking Arrow, and shoot the Sphinx in the wing in order to defeat it in one hit. Once you defeat them, this should start a small little cutscene where they fade away into the light. This should allow them to drop a bunch of items down onto the ground. There should be a couple piles of gold. It only adds up to about 10,000, but more importantly, there's a key. You'll also grab a bunch of XP, which hopefully should level you up. Now, don't forget to open up the chest from the Riddle of Futility to get the Eternal Bond, but you can then use this key to open up the main large chest in the middle of the area in order to unlock a very, very rare, very useful Eternal Wakestone, which you want to save for a very specific part of the game, as in a way it's almost designed for something specific. Other than that, don't forget to take your Portcrystal with you as you leave the area, since you won't need to come back here. Drop a like on the video if you think I deserve it. Share the video with a friend. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. I'll see you soon. Peace.